I don't know if you've heard, seen, or maybe seek tenant horror stories, but as landlords, certainly landlords for more than a couple of years, you are undoubtedly going to run into situations where tenants do less than good things. I do want to step back just for a moment and remind folks that there are horrible landlords. There are these things called slumlords, and they are terrible, terrible individuals. This episode is not about them. Maybe we'll do one of those next because I bought properties from them. But this one's going to be about terrible tenants because everybody wants to hear about them, I guess. So, Casey, what's going on? I'm sure you have a couple of stories.
I do. And, everybody is always so like, got to get the deal, the numbers, the deal, the deal. And it's like, yes, that's important. Getting a deal is important. But what's almost, in my opinion, more important than getting a good deal is putting in quality tenants that will take care of your property because you're not the one that's there all the time. Great, you got a good deal. How are you going to keep that property a good deal? And the way you do that is by picking good tenants, by having strong and strict tenant criteria and not wavering on that. And I know a lot of new investors, new landlords, myself included, which is why I have horror stories. We go through this emotional thing with, well, they're people and we want to help them and we do all that we can. And a lot of times that is not reciprocated. And so I have a story to share, and it's not discouraging anyone from landlording. I think it's absolute must. If you live local and you can manage your properties, I think you should definitely do it to at least understand what it's like, what's involved before handing it over to a PM. If you can, if you're out of state investor, like, no, please don't manage your own properties. Don't do it. There's just too much risk there. But the story that I want to share today is my worst story. And it was one of my first initial properties that we bought. This property is in a C-class neighborhood. And at the time, I thought, well, nobody in this neighborhood has great credit. So why should I even check credit, right? I'm just going to do the gut feeling and have them fill out an application. And what if they got a job, and they make 3 times the rent and they seem like decent people and they don't smell like smoke? Great. So got this couple in and they were, quote, engaged, which I've learned doesn't really mean you're engaged. All the time. Sometimes people are engaged a lot. So this was definitely one of those situations. It was more like they were just boyfriend, girlfriend, which is fine. Like I have a lot of boyfriend, girlfriend situations, but just weird. But they would say that. Anyways, they got in some domestic issue. Like the guy was cheating on her with someone of the opposite of the same sex, and she kicked him out, right? I would have too. So it was very interesting. You can DM me if you want some fun details. So got to move. He moved out. Well, he was the primary breadwinner. He was the one that had the big job. He was, ex-military and had like a disability payment. So they always paid on time for the most part. And if they were late, they paid the late fees, no problem. She's like, Casey, please, please, can I stay? My son is in school. He's doing really well here. I don't really want to move him. I'll get another job. Like, I can do this. And I'm like, I hate to sucks what happened to you. Like, I feel really bad for you. And yes, your son is doing really well in school and he's got straight A's. And sure, go get that second job, make it work. It didn't quite happen that way. She became more and more late on rent. And at first it became, oh, can I pay you half? And then the other half in the next 2 weeks when I get paid. And then it turned into, well, they don't get paid every other week, they get paid, or not certain days of the month, they get paid every other week, which pushed it into the next month, you know? And so now I'm getting paid a month behind. At one point, she owed me 4 months worth of rent at one point, trying to help this lady out, right? Now, I will say the only reason why I did this, why I continued it, was because she at least communicated. For me, communication is so key. Now, all this was a big mistake, okay? I shouldn't have done any of these things. Should have said the first instant, okay, that they broke up and said, well, you don't qualify anymore. No more do you make 3 times the rent. You got to go. I didn't do it. So my bad, right? This just started the train of breaking the agreement of the lease in so many ways. I should have understood from the very beginning. About 3 weeks into them moving in, they got a pit bull, right? They didn't tell me, but I own the house across the street. And I drove by, I was showing that house and saw a dog in the window, a little cute little pit bull puppy, very cute. But there's not supposed to be dogs there. And so I called her on it and she's like, oh, tell you, sure you were. Then they had their sister move in for temporary because she needed, whatever job. And it was just more and more and more things. At one point, my daughter and I had to go pick up rent because her car wasn't broken and she couldn't, take it to the bank or whatever. So we drove over. They opened the door and whoa, I might have got a contact high from opening the front door to grab the cash. Like, yes. And then it was cash. So many mistakes. Finally, you guys, after 5 years of this, I decided I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I talked to her way too much. She was caught up on rent and everything. But the day she was late, I mean, rent's due on the 1st, late by the 5th in Tennessee. On day 6, I said, I'm done. If she doesn't, and I give her plenty of warnings. If you don't pay, you're done. So I was flying to California for vacation and I was like, well, she hasn't paid. It's, 2 weeks late and she's promised and promised. I'm going to go to eviction court and I'm going to go file on her before I get on the airplane. I filed on her. I didn't tell her. I told the process server to hold off on serving her. Maybe I thought she wouldn't see that I filed and maybe she would move out on her own. She had promised she'd move out, all these things. She calls me up and says, Casey, you said you filed on me. And I'm like, oh, the only way you would have known that is if because I didn't send the process server to her house. The only way she would have known that is if she was applying for other places to live, right? And they saw that there was an eviction on her record, filing on her record. So I was like, yeah, I did. I told you, I owned it. I said, I told you. So she moved out. Okay. The day we get back from California, the very next morning, we're at the house. I walk in the front door, you guys, and thousands of fleas jumped all over me. It was horrendous. Okay. So we called the flea people and they're like, sure, we can treat, but you have to come vacuum every day for a week. And I'm like, what is the point of you doing the treatment if I have to vacuum? So I was like, you know what? This place we're going to vacuum. It's going to stay vacant for 30 days. We're going to kill the fleas, the eggs. Like, no, they're not going to have a bite to eat. I can't deal with this. So we let it vacant for 30 days to clear all the bugs. She stole my appliances. Her dogs, she at one point had 8 pit bulls living on the property. The house was really nice before. Completely peed through all the floors, the carpet, ruined the wood floors. They are not refinishable. So I'm going to have to lay flooring. She painted my kitchen cabinets that were oak. She put some film stuff all over my cabinets. She just ruined everything. She backed into my garage door with her car when she was drunk. She admitted to that, but she was never going to fix it. I had put in a really nice glass security door. Don't do that. Okay, let's just keep it wrought iron. Not the greatest, but they're not going to break it. Her son hit it with a basketball about a month after I did that to them. Who knows if that's true, but maybe. All in all, this rehab to fix cost $15,000, 5 years of headaches, dealing with this nightmare of a stress case, and a month's worth of missed rent. So a month's worth of missed rent plus 15,000 in rehab, and I had to put in a new all because why? Because I was too soft. Now I take the card out and I place it in a drawer before I talk to them on the phone. Because, you do a lot of good things for people, and I do. I still give chances. I gave a chance to someone else the other week, a good tenant, and he followed through. It was great. But you got to let them know that it's temporary, that this is not a chance that you get to use over and over and over again. If I let you be late once, it doesn't mean you can be late all these other times. If I waive your late fee once, doesn't mean I'm going to waive it again. And you have to put your foot down and you have to hold yourself to the lease agreement, or else they will walk all over you. But moral of the story is to avoid having nightmare tenants like this, do your due diligence, and at the first sign of them not treating your property right, not following the rules, ghosting you, flaking out, not following you through on their obligations, it's time for tough love.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that anymore. I think there's really a couple of lessons in there that I follow to this day. One is I would rather have a property vacant than bend one of my rules. Again, credit, income level, no evictions, all of that. Whatever the criteria is, we don't bend anymore. I've been burned every time we did. And then second, you're right. It's okay to give a single chance, especially to somebody who's been with you for years. If somebody's asking for a chance after a month or two, no, that's a problem. But if it's been a couple of years and they had a hiccup, I agree. One time is okay, but never twice. And yeah, like you, I like to act like I have a hard outer shell, but I have a very squishy center. So I am lucky in that I have property managers and I can tell them to be ruthless and follow the rules. So I don't have to hear those stories. Every time I tried to be a friend or a help, it burned me and burned me bad. So I couldn't agree with you more.
It's hard. It's very hard to be a landlord. And a lot of times that's where people make big, expensive mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a really good job picking my neighborhoods and getting decent deals and having great cash flow, but it's just, it all goes down the freaking drain when you put in a tenant that doesn't deserve to be there and completely trashes your property and costs you years of cash flow. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah. Well, Casey, where can people follow your journey?
People can follow me every day on Instagram at Brick by Brick Wealth and everywhere else that you find typical social media and my website, brickbybrickwealth.com.
Thank you so much.